All right, so look like we're live. Okay, maybe I should test it on my device, other device. All right, so look like we're live. We're testing out a new platform. Well, new platform for me. I think I'm the only one on this line who hasn't tried it yet. But hey, y'all, what's going on? It is your favorite college for free coach, the college prep boss, Tamika Williamson. Woo woo! And I am joined by some super fabulous, wonderful people. We have Dr. Brock Talley
Hello, hello,
at
hello.
UAPB.
Hey.
And then we have the soon to be Dr. Alicia Gibson,
Mm.
Hello, 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 hello.
educator, extraordinaire, administrator. And I may be a little biased because this is my god sister, but you're gonna learn some things from her. She's been able to teach all over the world. So she's very skilled and knowledgeable about this area. But we wanted to come to you, share some tips that's going to be beneficial to you as a parent, to your scholar, and help you to navigate these unprecedented times we're in. I'm getting a little tongue tied here. So how about I'm gonna let y'all tell a little bit about yourself, because I know I got challenged this week with something. We have a bad habit of not bragging about ourselves, but I want to just let you all say a little bit and then we'll go from there. So Alicia.
All right. Good evening, everybody. And I really don't do a good job of bragging on myself. But this is my 24th first week of school. As an educator, I am a doctoral candidate. I'm so excited. But my best work is teaching is my ministry. I'm an ordained minister, newly married, and my best product are my two children in college and my senior in high school, who are just the angels of my life. And so I have taught English for 18 years. It is my passion teaching our children how to enjoy literacy and reading and writing. And so I'm now enjoying navigating in this virtual platform and supporting parents and other educators kind of navigate the newness of our season, which is learning in a virtual environment. So I'm excited to be a part of what we're doing on tonight.
Awesome. Thank you. So Dr. Talley.
Well, let me begin by saying thank you to you. It's truly an honor to join this conversation and to highlight what we're doing at UAPB and to talk to parents as well. So thank you. My hat's off to you for this opportunity and this privilege. I am Brock Talley, currently serving as Vice Chancellor for Enrollment Management and Student Success at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, the university that's the flagship of the Arkansas Delta. And I've been here about a year now. Prior to coming to UAPB, was vice president over at Rusk College, and prior to that was at Alabama A&M University. So really excited about having this conversation with you. PhD from Jackson State, master's from Alabama A&M University, bachelor's from Rusk College. So Golden Triangle with HBCU. So I love my Black colleges. So really excited about it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you too for joining us. I think it's always great when you can bring other like-minded, well-educated experts in their areas to give and share knowledge. But the thing about the beauty of the people I've been blessed to be surrounded by is we have the heart for sharing, we have the heart for educating, we have the heart for empowering, especially our people. And so that makes this even that much more greater and exciting. So I see Nadine put a comment and said, thanks for the webinar. She's learned so much from us. So, well, I guess she said from me, but I just say us, because I always try to share my tribe and share my network as much as I can. I don't take that lightly, because I learn from you just as we learn from each other. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started. So one of the things I wanted us to talk about is understanding, because I know when COVID first hit, Many of us thought, well, you know what? Yeah, this is gonna be temporary. Kids gonna go back to school. We only gonna be here for a few weeks, and a few weeks have turned into the rest of the school year. Now we're starting a new school year, and many of our kids are home learning virtually. And we're not gonna get into the inequities that exist there because we'll be here all night with that piece. But there are some things I think parents also need to understand. I do believe in the principle, if you walk about in a person's shoes, you'll have a better understanding of where they're coming from, and it helps you to better prepare. And so one of the things I asked Alicia to share is, let's share with parents a day in the life of an educator. And I'm not going to say any educator, because I think we give our educators a very hard time. But when I see people out, whatever your stance is, but there are people out there protesting, wanting the kids to go back to school and all these things, and you hear educator this, educator's not doing that. I want people to see you have some really great educators teaching your child. And I want you to see what a day in the life of theirs could look like. This is just a small, very tiny glimpse. But then she's going to come and share with you some tips as well, how you can help them. Because here's the reality. In order for your child to be successful, it's going to require you to be involved, to be engaged, to be informed. So it must be a partnership. And if you don't partner with your child's teacher, then your child's chance of being left behind is going to be that much greater. I started to pull stats. I sit on a post-secondary committee here in Atlanta, and we had a meeting this week. And so they shared some of the latest numbers. And I started to go there. I said, nope, I'd rather us focus on the practical aspect of where we're at now. But this is how we could combat those stats. So Alicia, I'm going to give the floor to you, and we're going to kick it off from there.
All right. So great question. It's the question that many do not ask. We hear the comments, we see the social media posts saying, I just don't understand. I need my child to go back to school. I've got to go to work. My child is just going to be online for 20 minutes. And then what do you guys want me to do with them for the rest of the day? Every school, every administrator, parents, please understand, they have never led in a pandemic. Your child's principal, your child's teacher has never done this before. This is uncharted waters. And so, yes, I have some tips I'm going to share, but the request, and I was honored, the what is the day? What is that look like? Because I truly believe that the comments that I've seen, the radio interviews, the television interviews are coming from a perspective that does not necessarily tell the full story. Teachers love the first day of school. There is nothing more awesome about having that child in the room with you, welcoming them in, having their treats on the table, planning all of the wonderful field trips, and having their hugs throughout the day. We live for that. When school let out in March, I tell teachers and other parents, that's the best part of the school year. You've worked so hard to get them to a certain point. Right before you're sending them to the next grade level, we lost that moment to say goodbye. And so there are teachers who are starting their school year this year without having said goodbye to their class. There are teachers who entered the buildings with tears because we've never packed up with the date still saying March 13th. And so the decisions that schools have made and school leaders made to begin virtually was out of sheer safety for your child and for the safety of an educator, whether they're in a hybrid environment or they're 100% virtual, or some schools have decided it was their best decision to have everyone be there live. That decision, regardless of what it was, did not come lightly. I need parents to understand that. So let's talk about a typical day. Let me say that every school is different. I can speak to our kind of family of schools. Our schools are kind of doing something very similar, but we attempted to recreate as much of a normal day for our K-5 environment as possible, which meant that we knew that parents were going to be at work or working virtually. So kids also look forward to their teacher. They want to be in front of their teacher. They want to have the interaction socially with their friends. So they are at school virtually from 8:30 to 3:30. That means that, for example, my 5th grade ELA and social studies students have homeroom, and I'm with them live on a Zoom call from 8:30 until 11 o'clock. That may not mean anything, but in order for me to prepare for live instruction with 40 plus up to 50 plus children on a Zoom call at one time for 3.5 hours, the fact that they are on, they are engaged, and they're beating me to the Zoom link at 8:29, they're like, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Says that we've done something right, because they are excited. So they have an hour of math, English, science, social studies. They have ancillary. They have PE. They have either art or music. They have accelerated reader. They have breaks. We're playing games. We're dancing. We're doing everything. But what I was sharing was, for every hour of instruction, it takes about 3 hours of planning and preparation, because I cannot simply say things. I've got to put it on in a Zoom platform. I've got to upload it. I've got to follow up. That's separate from the calls. I've got to call and wake children up. I've got to call and get parents on board. I've got to make sure an hour before 8:30 that I'm calling all 62 parents to make sure, is your child awake? Are they ready to go? Is the login okay? Does the username work? Then after that, I spent another 6 or 7 hours grading all of it, calling parents to make sure, because all children unfortunately cannot log in at the same time. So then some children are logging in hours later, and so you got to go over and provide additional instructions. Everything I say, I have to go back and type to make sure that children can access it. If I have directions for anything, not only do I have to provide the instruction, I may have to make a mini video. So I make 4 or 5 videos a day.
Wow.
Separate from their teaching, because I can't assume that every parent is computer savvy enough to know how to go on and do the right click here and download, and we're typing this in Google Docs. And so in order to make sure that their child is receiving quality instruction, I've got to provide the instructions for parent to make sure child can even access the virtual platform. I think that it would go without saying that all teachers in this season are feeling overwhelmed. I've seen teachers, and I've even had teachers absolute call with tears, and I can't do it. It's too much, but we've got to every day do the same thing. I answer, Tamika, about the same 12 questions every single day. I've learned to take breaks, to refresh, to take a walk, go outside, because I don't think that people have understood what energy, what time commitment is required for an educator to make sure that your child is on. We won't even go into what we see literally on the screen while they're there. That's a whole nother talk show. Parent, get dressed. Parent, make sure your child is up, has had breakfast. That's a whole nother talk show. Many of the curriculum companies, now you've got to pay for certain things that used to come free because we've got to upload PDFs. And because now if they're reading the novel, I don't have the opportunity to just have them go visit, bless you, the library at the school. So I've got to give them everything, which means now I've got to recreate things on my own, or I've got to pay a teachers pay teacher link to create all of my PowerPoints. I shared with Tamika earlier that my 35 lessons took 497 PowerPoint slides. Because now I've got to show everything that I say. If they're in front of me and little Johnny needs some extra help, I don't get to provide that via Zoom. So now I may have to do one Zoom link for this group, then different directions for this group. And so it's tireless work. It's worth it work, but it is tireless work. Some tips. Just there's about 20 tips, but I'm going to share just 7 today, and then I'll leave my information. If any, let me say that if there is any parent, I don't care what state, what country, what continent, wherever you are, if you need help, Alicia D. Cleveland on Facebook. You don't even have to go to another social media platform. You don't even have to find me on a website. Inbox me. Whatever your question is, I will call you personally. I will help you, because we can complain all day or we can be about a solution. So what this moment is an opportunity is to provide some support. Parents, we understand you need some help. You need some support. I've told teachers we can't assume just because parent can upload a selfie on Facebook or use a filter on Snapchat, that does not mean that they understand Publisher and PowerPoint and Google Docs and how to upload. And we can't make those assumptions. And so it's going to require that we help child, but we've got to help parent as well. So to the parents that are on, I know Tamika can see the chat. Dr. Tally, we cannot see the chat, but if there are questions, even as I'm talking, stop me, chime in so that we can address your very specific needs. But in the brevity of time, just 7 tips, parents, and you may think, oh, she's going to give me some technology tips. Not yet. Before we even get to technology, there are just some practical tips that you can use just to help your child get on the right track. Okay. So the first one is positive. Be positive. If your attitude about virtual learning is positive, it will be contagious. If you approach it and embrace it and you say, sweetheart, this morning we're going to nail it. Your teacher is looking forward to you. Get up, get dressed, get breakfast, and let's get into our learning mode. Your attitude, mom and dad, auntie, grandma, whether I know how to click around, if you are positive about it, your child will be positive about it. And that's just being practical. We need you to plan is number 2. Plan your schedule and plan for a space. Your schedule for your child is usually uploaded in some platform, whether it is Google Classroom, whether there's a Zoom link, a website, email the teacher. Find out what the plan is. What is the schedule? What time should my child be doing X, Y, and Z? Let me tell you a little secret. Attendance was optional in March to May. Most of the states waived attendance, waived state testing. Now Attendance is required. They are taking attendance. The attendance waivers have not happened. Okay. So you need to plan for your child to be able to access their virtual platform every day, just like they're going to school. Our school is Monday through Friday. Some school teachers are only going live 3 days a week. Whatever it is, plan to know the schedule. And then some children, because they're on Zooms, they're on Microsoft Teams, they're on Google Meet without being properly attired, being ready for school. So prepare and plan like they're actually going to school. Some schools are requiring uniforms. Why? Not because they're being mean, because if they don't make that child put a uniform on, they won't have anything on. And many times that uniform changes how they are seeing, I'm at school, I'm not in my t-shirt, I'm not in my pajamas. So it might be a good best practice, especially for our K-5 children, to have them put their uniform on or put on something that's going to get them in school mode, get a desk, get a TV tray, whether they're sitting Indian fashion at this particular space on the floor, give them a school space, kitchen table, wherever they're going to be, give them a space, let your child be a part of creating their space so that they can be excited about where they're going to learn. Yeah. All right, number 3 is good old parenting. And you may think, well, of course, but that's not to go without being said. We need you to check in. We need you to hover, whether you understand the content, because there are things that my senior in high school, she is taking AP calc, not my area. So I could not help her if she asked a question. Let's have a real conversation. There are some parents who cannot help their child navigate and understand and internalize the content. But if you don't do anything but hover, make sure that their screen is on, make sure that they're staying muted, following the expectations of that teacher, whether they are kindergarten or college. Just kind of be a part of the process so that they know my mom and my dad or my grandparent and my teacher communicate. They know we're on the same team, whether that's just, you better get on there and listen to Mrs. Gibson. If you just do that, you're great. Good old fashioned parenting. All right. Persistence is number 4. You've got to put the work in. If there are instructions about how to log in, if they have given you a video, watch it. If they've uploaded instructions, read them. And you may think, well, of course. Well, no, not of course. Read that information. Follow those instructions and be persistent. You might have a login issue one day. You may have some Wi-Fi navigation issues one day, but it's going to require persistence, because let me tell you, your child is watching. So if you get frustrated and say, you know what, never mind, this is crazy, your child is going to say, you know what, never mind, this is crazy. And it all goes back to step 1, which is be positive. Okay. Second one, be patient. Be patient with your child's school. Be patient with the material. Be patient with the Zoom link, the Google Meet link. Many of the teachers, I said at our first moment, have never done this. So in some cases, there's a brand new teacher next door to me. She's trying. She's up hours, 2-3 o'clock in the morning. She's emailing. Well, we're at work at 7:30 because some teachers are reporting to their school buildings teaching virtually. Everybody is not teaching virtually at their house. So sometimes they're learning new content. They have a new curriculum. They're learning a new Zoom platform. They've never done Microsoft Teams. And now they're doing it to 30 plus, 40 plus, 60 plus children at the same time. Be patient. Understand that everybody is on the same page, rowing in the same direction. So if we realize we're on the same team and we're a little bit, we extend some grace to one another, that may help your child's overall learning experience. 2 last ones. Pay attention. pay attention. If you see that there's some missing work, there's some assignments that need to be completed and turned in, because you've done the good old parenting and you're checking in, you'll know and you'll help your child to keep track of the assignments and know where to look. And if you're having difficulty, reach out to your child's teacher and say, we're having some trouble here. Can you help us? Okay. The last one is prepare. Prepare for those glitches. Have extra chargers around. Make sure your Wi-Fi is plugged in. Your connections are good. And, help your child. There may be an opportunity. In many cases, the lessons are recorded. So if your child is having some difficulty or needing something to be repeated, play it again. So prepare for there to be some work on your end. Prepare for your child to have a little struggle at first. And if we do just those 7, I think will help everybody, the educator, the parent, and ultimately our first priority is your child, to help your child end up hitting those growth targets and making sure that they are performance ready and mastery ready as they prepare to go into the next grade. It is difficult. Your child is experience all sorts of things. So even checking in with them emotionally is probably a great idea. Baby, how was today? Forget the content, forget math for a moment. How are you feeling? Many times they are frustrated, they're hurt. I have a senior. She started her senior year on a Zoom call. So we've got to think about where our child is, have those conversations, and then reach out if you need help. So I hope those tips help. I hope that walk of a teacher's day kind of brought some context and clarity to what we're experiencing, but know we're all in this together.
Wow. Thank you, Alicia. I mean, you got wow. She's a GOAT for calling the parents. That's some great information. People sharing it. Those are some really great practical tips that not only applies to K through 5, it actually applies at all grade levels, and even for us as adults. You always tell you always tell your students or even leaders and employees, hey, you dress how you feel. So if you're dressed for success, you'll deliver success. And proper planning proper planning and preparation promotes positive results.
Yeah.
So we have to do the work on our end. And it's not a magical thing that happens. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. So parents, be patient with yourself as well as with your child as you're transitioning through this phase, this stage we're in. But I also like that you talked about the emotional side. This whole social, emotional, and educational awareness, we have to have all of those areas. So parents, don't be afraid. Please, please, please ask your child how they are doing. I remember we did an event earlier this year before COVID, and it was a panel of students. And I still remember this young man when he said, if my parents just this is a high school student.
Right.
If my parents would just ask me how my day was, that would mean the world to me. That would let me know that they love me. I about broke down in tears. It was an event. Judge Penny was doing this panel discussion with the kids, and we were talking about the emotional struggle a lot of our kids are going through. That's why I was talking about suicide. And when he said that, in his mind, he equated their love for him as them asking, how was he doing? How was his day? If he needed anything. That's all he wanted them to do, was to say, how are you doing today? So parents, don't discount the small things, because I think in this environment we're in now, it's those small things that's really going to make a huge difference in our babies' lives. Dr. Towley, you want to add something to that or comment on that? I mean, that was some great info.
Yeah, I think she shared the playbook for any stage of education or life that you're in. I think I just like to add from a collegiate level, we've been getting those institutions that are going back have been getting a lot of slack from folks saying, well, why is your institution opening? Why is your college going back? And just wanted to talk about the political side of it some, that many institutions, especially if it's a public institution, it wasn't that university's administration or president that may have made that decision. It may have been a governmental entity that made that decision. So don't be mad at your president or the administration there because your institution is reopening. But I think the thing that we can do is try to make the best out of the situation. Encourage students to wear masks. Try to ensure that your child has enough water and hand sanitizer and things of that nature on hand. I think the other thing that as administrators we have to remember is to try to keep things as normal as possible. For many students, going to college is an escape. For many of them, going to college is a better environment than being at home. So they need to go to that institution. So, it's very complicated, and we're just trying to make the very best out of I don't want to say a bad situation, but a challenging situation. And I think the way to do that is to remain optimistic, open-minded, and to keep our students, our children first, and try to keep their safety protocols first without circumventing the culture and the experience that students go to college for.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. And I'm glad you brought that up too, because it's kind of like when you work for a company, like why did they make that decision and what did they base that off of? There are a lot of mitigating factors we are totally clueless about, and we have no power per se. We have to go with the flow, or we have to make lemonade out of the lemons that's given to us. So I'm glad you said that in a lot of cases, schools are opening not by choice, but pretty much by the governing body that leads them, that they answer to.
Sure. And, you have the president of the United States saying, if you open, I'll support you in these ways. So how does a CEO or a president say, do I forfeit the possibility of this support? Or take my chances, because you're taking your chances on both ends.
Absolutely, man. This is so good. So, okay, guys. So we're gonna rotate some things out because I want y'all to understand. We all got high demanding schedules, and of course, we decided to do this on a Sunday before a work day anyway. But Dr. Alicia is going to have to transition because she has a planning meeting for her parents and for her class. But she so graciously agreed and said, "Hey, no, I'll do this." And I was like, you could jump off. That is perfectly fine. So what we'll do is we'll have anybody who wants that information. If you go to, I think I set it up under the collegeprepboss.com, and you put in your name and email address, we'll make sure we get that information to you as well. Let's see. Kenya has a question. I'm not sure if it's for you, Alicia. Let's see. Several parents are essential workers, and will not be in the home to help enforce the virtual classroom. What tips do you have for those scholars that will be at home by themselves? Ooh.
I love that. That's a great question.
Yeah.
So there are several agencies that are doing Zoom babysitting. That you can get a link in and watch your child virtually. There are several daycare centers and community centers that are bringing kids in limited numbers just to give them somewhere to go for essential workers, where they can literally, all they're doing is just making sure that they're navigating on virtual platforms. So I certainly will reach out to your community. I don't know where you are. If you're in the Baton Rouge area, I can give you a list of places that are offering those type of services. The virtual babysitting, I'll share that with you, Tamika. But there are a lot of people who are doing that. There's also a video link, like a security camera, that you can purchase for your home. They're very inexpensive, and families are turning those on basically just making sure that their child is learning virtually for school age that are old enough to be at home by themselves, but mom or dad have to actually go to work and can't be there to check in and make sure. One of the things that we've told our parents, I'm the babysitter, I'm the virtual babysitter, which is why we have said 8:30 to 3:30, we're keeping them engaged, even building in, okay, y'all, this is a snack time, go get a snack. And so I'll have them just stay on camera, go in the kitchen, come back. And so depending on what your child's day is, depends on the needs. Some parents are working together. Look, I'm off on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm off on Monday, Wednesdays. You bring your two to my house. And that's not perfect, but I understand life happens. And so networking, collaborating, have those conversations, say something to the church members if you're in a local community to say, hey, can we, can you keep, and then I watch, can we work together to kind of partner? This is the season where we're having to go back to what we used to know. Okay. This is the season, without telling how old I am, where the village is raising your children. Okay. We've got to be willing to kind of think outside of the box, color outside of the lines, to make sure that kids are being cared for. But reach out, but I can certainly give you some resources, because I do know several agencies that are doing that virtual babysitting that'll check in with your children for you. Again, we are the teachers that we're calling and waking them up. And so depending on what that is, then now is a great opportunity to shop for that right school. If that school site is not providing you with the best scenario for your household in terms of a virtual platform, guess what? We're virtual. So you may need to register your child somewhere that better has a schedule that meets your needs. Some schools are doing virtual after school care. So there's all sorts of different creative things that people are doing now. But that's an excellent question. I would love to even help you get some local support where you are, to help you kind of bridge some of those community resources together. I hope that helps that person with their question.
No, that helps. And I'm going to put it in the chat box as well. So if you go to thecollegeprepboss.com, you can put your name and email address, and then that will allow us to reach out to you, and I can connect you with Alicia and share the additional tips and resources with you as well. So if you just want to drop your name and email address there, we'll be able to reach out to you.
Awesome. And again, thank you guys for having me. But I realize that we're going to need to every other week kind of do a check-in with our moms and dads before their kids start the week. So it's something we're going to start just to kind of have a moment to kind of answer their questions and check in with them. And we're doing that this evening. So thank you so much for having me, Dr. Talley. It was a pleasure to meet you. And I'll be reaching out with that senior with admissions. All right.
Yeah, let me know. I'd love to help. Good meeting you as well.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Alicia. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right. So we're going to keep it moving with more great information. So talking about admissions, and getting our babies ready. I have a lot of kids who started school this fall. Most of them are going to campus. I only have a handful not going to campus, Dr. Talley, and I'm sure we have other people listening where the parents have sent their babies for the first time off to college, or they sent others to college, but this is the first time they've had to send their kids to college in a pandemic, and there's a lot of apprehension. There's a lot of nervousness. I did a seminar for my clients on this past Monday with one of my doctors, and she talked about how to strengthen the immune system of our scholars and how to build their overall health, and gave some tips from that standpoint. But I want you to share with the parents who are sending, because all our kids haven't left yet, who are sending or who have sent, and they're trying to calm their minds. What are some tips for those parents and those scholars to assimilate into the college environment now, where some it's going to be partially virtual, some be in class, some may be all virtual, they'll be on the campus, and it's just a hybrid of things going on. What are some of the things you're sharing with some of your because I'm sorry, y'all, let me preface this. So I'm asking Dr. Talley this question, but I also want you to understand something. Dr. Talley is very hands-on with his students, and he has been for as long as I've known him. So this is not coming from a person who just sits in the office and gonna just give you some answers. He gets out and rub elbows and hug babies and kiss the babies and shake hands and all those things. So he's very much so a hands-on administrator at his institution, and has been for all the institutions he's worked at. So I'm sure some of the things you're going to share are probably things you've given firsthand to the students who have already started checking in at UAPB.
Yeah, well, look, I appreciate that, and I've probably been more challenged than the students have, because, like you said, I want to hug them, I want to kiss them, I want to, especially those who were with us last year and are returning, because it's been 6 months since we've seen those students. Those new students, we've talked to them over the phone, we recruited them, and so it's good to finally put a face with those students' names and their voices. So I'm challenged as much as they are with wanting to embrace them and love on them, but we've had to do that in a more creative way. So I guess one of the things I'd share is to watch the news, but not become over inundated with the news either. And I say that to parents and to students. You want to stay informed, but sometimes it can increase the level of anxiety that would throw everything else off in your collegiate career off. You will become boxed into everything that's coming on the news, and you can't focus on the academic pursuit that you're going towards. I think the other thing is to, especially for those who are going back to class, wear those face masks, those things that we're doing anyway, and it's hard for college students, even on my campus, to refrain from having parties, kickbacks, and we've tried to have fun with them, but to give them alternatives as well. Hey, you don't have to go to that party just because it's available or because the flyer is there. It's kind of like Nancy Reagan. Just say no. You don't have to go. But I also
just say no to the party.
And because again, it's about keeping the students alive. But I understand, or safe, I should say. When you're 18, 19, 20 years old, you've been cooped up at home for the last 6-7 months, and now you finally get a little freedom. Your parents are hours away. You're in college, and you see that person who you have a crush on or that friend. It's hard not to, not to want to break those social distancing rules. But colleges have had to revamp our handbooks. How do we do things? Do we suspend a student for not practicing social distancing, or do we encourage that student to change or mitigate some of their behaviors? And I think that's where parents have to come in, stay connected with those students, continuously reinforce, hey, baby, make sure you wear your mask, make sure you sanitize in your room. Don't have everybody in your room. Don't go to the frat house. Don't, chill out for a minute. And if we all can come together, if we all can practice this, eventually things will mitigate to a point where we can do those things. So it's a small sacrifice for a huge reward. And I'll end with this. I think having that schedule is so important, and to build breaks into your schedule. You have your class schedule, but say, when am I just going to do nothing? When am I going to read? When am I going to develop a new hobby? When am I going to take that extra major or that extra minor? I always wanted to take a class in stats, even though I'm an English major. Is this a time to do that? And And I don't know. I think if students do those things, they'll be okay. I think if parents just try to be a listening ear and an encourager, opposed to um, opposed to being so concerned about grades at this point. Just try to give those students the encouragement and support that they need to stay safe in the pandemic, and make sure they're doing those small things. I think things will work themselves out.
Okay. So those are tips that helps them to assimilate and even focus and get prepared on the academic side. One of the other challenges and the greatest things about one of the great assets of being in college is the social piece beyond the partying. Building your leadership skills at that next level, engaging in extracurricular activities, leading the club and SGA and all those things. How do you do that if you're in a virtual environment?
Yeah, we're still doing those things from on our campus. We're having Zoom meetings. I need to go buy some stock in Zoom. I think every college in the every institution is taking advantage of Zoom right now. But from the administrative standpoint, we're allowing our students to be creative, have fun. We're having a virtual step show. We're just trying to have fun, and administrators have to do the same thing. This is an opportunity to think outside of the box. How can we do some things that we never thought that we would be able to do before? And the other thing is, especially from a higher ed standpoint, there have been many professors, especially older professors, who say, hey, I'm not teaching online. I don't have to learn that. What is Blackboard? Why do I need a shell for my class? But now you're being forced to do those things. All of our classes have a Blackboard shell on them, just in case students want to take that same course from a high flex standpoint. So, I think we're still doing those social activities. We're still having SGA meetings. We're still having debate club opportunities. And now that we're, still warm, we can do some things outside. The CDC tells us that we can do some activities when practicing social distancing outside. So we're trying to do those things as well. Just ensure that students are wearing masks and are spaced out enough from each other. Many institutions have gone to single occupancy in their residential halls. That cuts down on the social aspect as well, because I tell you, my best friend, my best man at my wedding was my college roommate. So it cuts down on developing those experiences as well. So we're encouraging students to use FaceTime. We have a Madden tournament that's coming on, where students are playing each other, online, Madden Live. So just having fun with students, connecting with students, but doing it from a virtual and technological standpoint.
Okay. You know what? I tell people that it's kind of like, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Bishop says something all the time, but I believe that your greatest creativity comes from the moment where you're challenged the most. It's kind of like when they talk about love songs. The greatest love song is written out of a place of deep pain.
Absolutely.
And this is where I see leaders, true leaders, really, really rise into the occasion, because true leaders will see this as an opportunity, because it's their growth mindset. It's the glass half full, not glass half empty. All right, let me see how I can make something work out of this. So no, that's good.
Because the band plays on, life will continue, and students have to be educated. We still have to prepare doctors for when this pandemic is over. We still have to prepare teachers for when this pandemic, we still have to prepare. We still have to do our things. But I think there's also fun in this creativity as well. I mean, from an administrative standpoint, you can think about how to do things virtually that you may not have could have done, that you may not have been able to do in a face-to-face environment, because in many cases it may be more affordable to do it from a virtual standpoint.
That's true. That is true. Virtual does yield more opportunities at a cheaper cost.
Absolutely.
Price point. So let's shift to like our seniors. The current incoming high school seniors. Everything is around test prep, and I know I'm gonna share a few things around tests, because that is a constant question I get all the time. Should I not? And when you said life goes on, you still have to keep functioning. You still have to keep moving forward. And that's part of my message. It doesn't mean that you stop, but what is UAPB? What is UAPB doing as it relates to the need and the push for colleges to shift their admissions requirements, and even some with their funding requirements as well?
Yeah, so it's definitely a catch-22 because many students cannot take the standardized test at this point. However, we want to make sure that we're putting students in the right classes to ensure their success once they get here. The best way to cut costs for college is to graduate in 4 years. That's the best and easiest way to save on college costs, graduate within 4 years. So we're trying to make sure that we're putting students in the right classes at the right times to make sure that they're going to graduate on time. So here, let me bring it full circle. Let me cut back across the field here. If a student has not taken the ACT or the SAT or those standardized tests, we're encouraging them to take placement exams on our campus. So that placement exam will let me know whether you're ready for college level English or do you need an English course that will get you ready for Comp 1. And it's so critical that we do that because if you're not ready for Comp 1 and I put you in Comp 1 that first semester, if you fail your first college course, you start to believe that college is too hard for me. I don't know if I can do it. Is this really what I want to do? I'm in a pandemic. It's affordable. I may be a first generation college student. And now I failed my first course in college. So I want to make sure that you're in the right classes so that when you're ready for Comp 1, you'll knock it out of the park. And that's a psychological thing, with it. I think the other thing that parents have to and students have to do is to make sure that students doing those volunteer hours. Many colleges are changing their approach to funding scales. Make sure you're doing those volunteer hours. Make sure you're still studying and trying to get good grades. Make sure that your student is well-rounded. There are some things, no matter if we're in a pandemic or what, that won't change. You have to be able to write and do arithmetic. Those are two things that you will have to do regardless of what happens. And so make sure that your child has mastered those. And I think if they can, they have solid grades in high school. If they don't have any character questions, meaning they haven't gotten in trouble with the law, things of that nature, and I should say unexplainable things, and make sure they're doing those volunteer hours, that we can work around those test scores because many institutions don't want to have those placement exams in place. And what we can do is you can take a placement exam. You can be in Atlanta and take a placement exam for UAPB while you're still in Atlanta. So we can set that up for you. We can do it via Zoom, have a proctor and all those things.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're proctoring the exam even via Zoom?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And ETS has some online proctors as well. So we can do some of the same things, but through a Zoom or through another social platform.
Okay. Dang, that's awesome. So parents, as you can see, there's really no excuse. There's no reason to really stop. I think about the human reaction to fear. We tend to do one of three things. We freeze. There's no reason. You said what?
No, I didn't say anything.
Oh, I thought somebody said something. We freeze, we flee, or we fight. And I see a lot of families right now kind of freezing, or they're fleeing. They're running away from it and basically ignoring it. The problem's not going to go away, and your child is still not going to be ready. So we got to face it head on and see what we can do. But what I want you to understand and know is there are options. So Dr. Talley just explained how they are approaching it, and every school is different. I was going to share. We have. I was in the admissions group. I don't know if you saw this, Dr. Talley, but I brought it up somewhere. In the admissions group, somebody created this image, And we was talking about, the test scores and the need for tests and why it's important or why it's not important, why it needs to be eliminated. So there's all kinds of thoughts and positions around this. And of course, many people are not happy when it comes to College Board and ACT. But they created this image and it talked about test optional, test blind, and they created these other two categories, test privileged and test dysfunctional. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. So many families are confused because they don't know. And that's why they keep asking the question, do we take the test? Do we not take the test? What should we do? And I keep trying to tell my families, look, we're moving forward with the same plan, but I don't want you stressing out because there are options. That's the bottom line. There are options, so I don't know if I want to put you on the spot, but kind of put you on the spot.
Okay.
What are your thoughts about just standardized tests at this juncture in the admissions process?
I hate them in general. I hate them.
I'm with you on that.
For me, the ACT, the SAT, it doesn't tell you if I'm a quality student or not. It doesn't tell you that. I'd much rather look at the transcript, which shows 4 years of performance or lack thereof, and use that to gauge whether you're ready to go to college or not. And the other thing is, you can't judge a student without judging what produced the student. And what I mean by that is, I don't mean the parent, but I mean the system itself. So I can't judge a student by not doing well on the ACT when they came from a high school that didn't prepare them for the ACT. So it's almost, I'm being caught in the pendulum of being successful or academically or in many states like my home state of Mississippi, you still have to take a statewide test. So I'm preparing for the statewide test, which my teacher is teaching for, but my teacher is neglecting teaching for the ACT. So do I focus on the ACT and have a great score, but don't have the Mississippi standardized test score? So now I can't finish high school. So which one do I focus on? And I think that's where many students are being caught in between. So I hate those tests. I wish we would go to a formula where we would look at students, what they've done over 4 years. And it doesn't mean you have to have a 4.0. In many cases, you can look for a U in the transcript. You may have done really well your freshman year, your sophomore year. That junior year, you may have hit a slump. I had puberty, something happening at home. I'm just up. But my senior year, I matured. And my senior year, my test scores, I might have a 4.0 or my classes. My GPA has gone back up. And that's what I would like to look for in a student. A student where a principal says, this is a rock star. This is a kid who wants it. This is a kid who's going to work and bust their butt every day. And I'm willing to bet on that child, that student, more than I am on the one who, has a 33, 34 in the ACT. Because, you need somebody who wants it. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to get off my soapbox about these tests. We have to understand that if that's the way society is going to go, that these tests are a game as well. Mm-hmm. It's like, I like to tell parents that it's like running a marathon. It's a 4 or 5 hour long test. I can't just sit down and say, okay, I'm smart, let me go take the test, but I've never sat for a 4 or 5 hour long test before. Okay. The same goes for running a marathon. I may be a good sprinter, but that doesn't mean I'm a good distance runner. And if I've never ran a 5K, I just can't get up tomorrow and go run a 5K. I have to practice that thing. And the same goes for the ACT. It's not so much practicing, the right answers. It's about practicing, can I focus for 4 to 5 hours? Because I may know mathematics, but when it's the last section of the test, I am worn out. And then I have to sit for another hour-long writing portion as well. So it's a challenge on all fronts. I think we need to get rid of it. I'm going to say this last piece, I promise, and I'll be done. That you cannot build a test on the East Coast and use it for a kid to evaluate a kid in Arizona on how they're going to prepare and do well in college. No. It just doesn't work that way, and you can't adequately do it.
No, I agree with you. I tell my families, of course, it's part of the game, so we got to play the game. But on the surface of it, I'm with you. I don't like the test. I've never been a big fan of standardized tests anyway. And I actually had this conversation with one of my scholars probably about a month ago because of the area she's in. She's up in the New England area. So she's surrounded by some very high intellectual students based on their cultural upbringing and the demands. And I'm trying to be real sensitive to how I say this, because we're just in an environment where things just kind of get taken
get blown
in
out
the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
But she's surrounded by students who culturally are trained to perform at such a high level from the time that they are born out of the womb. And they started preparing for the SAT pretty much more so than the ACT, but they started preparing when they were like second and third grade.
Mm-hmm.
And she was feeling a little inadequate to some extent because these are freshmen in high school. They're starting their freshman year. And these students are starting out their freshman year with calculus and all these other higher ranking classes that most students don't get to until they are a senior. And so one of the things I had to explain to her, the cultural differences, and of course the creation of the test, how the test is created, for how it was built for a certain demographic of people. And the other part of this is their destination is different from yours. Mm-hmm. So based on the destination in where they're trying to go, they are trying to get into MIT mm-hmm. and the Harvards. So their pathway of preparation is going to be very different from yours. And the timing of when they take things. So you can't compare yourself because you're not comparing apples to apples. And you have to be comfortable in the skin you're in the place, at the place you're at, and know that you are you're not less adequate, you're not less smart, any of those things, just because you're not at the same level. And that's some of the things, some of the behaviors and the challenges our kids are faced with when you start talking about these tests. I didn't hit the top 1%, I didn't hit the top 10% or the top 5%, and so I'm not smart enough. No, it doesn't mean that at all. It doesn't mean that at all. I had recently had to deal with somebody at a professional level, at our corporate level, pass a very hard certification test. But in terms of the ability to do the job, I was like, this is a classic case of being very, very book smart and knowing how to pass standardized tests. Because I know people who struggle and took the test multiple times and still didn't get certified. And this person is certified, but can't do the job to save their lives.
Yeah, that test don't mean nothing. It doesn't tell you anything, because once you're in, you still got to have something to go along with it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It doesn't mean anything. It's another part of it. I don't want to go there. I leave it alone. But
I know, because we'll get on our little soapbox. Yeah, some things we can have conversations about offline, not on video. So, parents, I'm looking at the chat. Any questions? I think you guys just been listening and stuff and just taking it all in. We've had some comments, but if you have any questions, drop them in the chat box. Because what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna wrap this up, because I don't want to keep us. We'll be on here all night because we love what we do, but we also have to get started, get ready for tomorrow. Yeah. So I think I'm gonna just break up and come and do some additional videos later on, because there's so many layers to this and there's so much to talk about that you just can't cover it all in one setting. I think what we've covered so far has been definitely sufficient.
Yeah. Let me just add this part, reiterate this piece. If you want your child to go to college, still plan for them to go to college. And I think that's what I think that's kind of the icing on the cake. Still plan for it. Because colleges will not shut down next year. Careers will still be employing folks next year. So still plan for your child to go to college. And that's going to require you to try to do some virtual visits. Many colleges have virtual days, virtual open houses, and the same things that you needed in a face-to-face environment, I would need them even more now in a virtual environment. If I'm looking for an institution that is a homey feeling institution, then I need that even more now from a virtual environment. So what I mean by that is, when I call, are you getting annoyed with that I'm asking even more questions now than I would, when I was visiting? So you have to get your feeling from a virtual environment and say, hey, I'm going to trust you for the next 4, 5, hopefully no longer than 6 years, at this institution. So still plan to go to college if that's your idea for the next year, for the next step. And start calling those colleges, see what they're going to do from an admission standpoint, see how that funding structure looks. Because again, as you said, the funding structure is going to look differently next year. Many institutions will have less money next year because foundations are cutting back on what they're giving to institutions. So they have to be a little bit more deliberate and creative in, how do I give scholarships now? Do I have the latitude that I had in the past?
Yeah. Shoot, do I have the profile? What I like to call a fundable profile. And I think this really puts a lot more emphasis on why we have to start the process a lot sooner, because now those who didn't start early enough in the process, they're trying to play catch up, and the pandemic is limiting their ability to catch up. So now there's going to be gaps in your profile, and that those gaps could impede the amount of funding you get.
And you know what? This is a buyer's market right now as well. Even though even though the funding is getting smaller, students can now say, well, look, UAPB offered me $10,000. Southern, what you gonna do? Yep. Southern, Jackson State offered me, or Jackson State, Southern offered me $15,000. What are you going to do, Jackson State? Because you have to remember, institutions can't go out and recruit anymore because of the pandemic. So you really get who comes to you or who your alums send to you. So now students can say, well, hey, let me, I don't want to use the word pimp, but let me leverage my ability.
That's a better word.
Let me leverage my ability here to say, hey, how can I get the most funding to support my educational career? The other thing is, some institutions offer scholarships on a year-to-year basis. You may want to ask for a automatic renewable scholarship. So let me go ahead and get it locked in while I know you need me, so that if this pandemic passes next year, you may say, well, hey, we have a overwhelming response because we can go back out on the road and recruit. So let me go ahead and lock the scholarship in for 4 years, so that regardless of what happens with the pandemic or the institution, I have this $100,000 to take care of my higher learning for the next 4 years.
But let me just put an asterisk with that, Dr. Talley, because I want to make sure nobody walk away thinking that they could get away with doing that, and they don't have to do nothing in return. Please trust and believe. Your job in this is to perform well academically.
Absolutely.
Please don't think that you can
Everybody can't do that.
Anything, and your grades are lackluster. Let's just keep it real. Nobody's funding for performance.
Absolutely. Every student is not doesn't have that level of leverage. Some students have to say, well, hey, I'm barely getting in here. Can you give me full admissions here? Everybody won't have that same level of leverage.
Oh gosh. Yes. Oh boy. But I hope everyone really take what we've shared, take it to heart. Keep going. I'm glad you said that. Keep going. Life doesn't stop. I know I was listening to, I think, Good Morning America. I think they said about 55%. It was, I don't know, maybe it was just for a particular area, but they was given a percentage of students who were taking the year off or doing a gap year. I've never been a big fan of a gap year. It really depends on how you plan to spend it. Now, now definitely in this pandemic, I think a gap year is very dangerous. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know, Dr. Charlie, you may have some additional thoughts, but I believe we should keep going.
I think it depends on who you are. If you're Sasha and Malia Obama, a gap year will not hurt you. You know, it depends on who you are. If your last name is Rockefeller, you know, you can take a gap year.
Yeah,
but,
that's true.
If your last name Talley, you better go and go to school. You know, I'm joking, but I'm so serious.
You're right.
Because you may not have the same time on your side that an Obama may have. You know, you got to strike while the iron is hot. Excuse me, my dog is barking like crazy. But I think that's his way of saying he agrees with me. But you got to strike while the iron is hot. And if it's hot right now, you know, if they're waving standardized scores and you know you're not a good test taker, I can't take the gap year. I got to go to school now. You know, if I know they have a little bit more funding now, I don't know what's going to come down the pipe next year. I need to take advantage of this now. That internship that I may need and the institution may waive it because of COVID, I need to take advantage of that now. So you have to put the odds in your favor, even if it is a pandemic. And now, again, now you have more leverage than ever before because some things you won't even have to explain because of the pandemic. People will, well, hey, maybe this didn't happen because of this. So no, I don't believe in the gap year unless you're in the top 1% or 2%. I don't believe in the gap year.
Yeah, so I see Jaretta, she's asking, why is the gap year dangerous? Pretty much what Dr. Talley just said. The opportunities that's available right now, especially for a student who may not be as strong academically, this is like the prime time to go ahead and get into a college because the requirements are being relaxed. They are waiving a lot of the things they typically would use in the evaluation process. The other reason why I say it's dangerous is because it lets you in the top 1% where your name is going to open those doors for you. When you do gap years, you have to be very intentional and how you spend that time. It needs to be productive. It needs to really yield something in the end. Like I've known students to do a missions trip for a gap, to take a gap year to do a missions trip before they start college. So they went and served. They went and developed other leadership skills. That's great. You need to have a story because from an admissions standpoint, the greatest amount of funding and opportunity for a student is when they transition from high school into college as a freshman. That's the greatest time of greatest opportunity of funding.
Let me say, I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
Go ahead, Dr. Talley.
I just want to say why that is, because if you transfer to my school, I can't count you in my graduation rate. That's why it is. If I can only count students who came to me directly from high school in my graduation rate. My graduation rate is important because that's how I get funding. That's how I get additional money. So if you transfer here, I want you to graduate, of course. I want to put the odds in your favor, but a student who comes directly from high school, I can't, from a federal standpoint, I can't say that I can't count you in my graduation rate. And if I can't count you in my graduation rate, then why am I throwing boatloads of money at you? You know, why am I buying you to come to school here? And let me say this last point. The other reason why the gap year is dangerous is because if you're not an Obama or Rothschild or one of these highfalutin names, your gap year may turn into a gap decade. And
that part.
And what I mean by that is when you skip going to school and your parents and you're not coming from this household, you don't have to work. When you have to work, you start creating bills. When you start creating bills, I don't care whether you're going to college or not. I still need my money. You know, Visa still need to be paid. American Express still needs to be paid. And so now I can't go to college, or let me take that back. The chances of me going to college and finishing in this 4-year time period is reduced because now I got to work because I got to pay for these things. Or now I've married a child, or now I started taking care of my mom or my parents, and life happens. So while you have the odds in your favor, go ahead and make the sacrifices and go to college or whatever you're going to do. I tell most of the students who I work with grew up like me, poor, and really just having the desire to want more. And I tell them what I was told coming out of high school. You've been poor for 18 years already. What is 4 more going to hurt you? When I know that coming out on these 4 additional years, I'm going to be in a better position to secure funding for my family. You know, higher education is the best investment that you can make. You go out there and buy a $30,000 car, and it won't give you any return on value. You go out there and buy a $300,000 home, it won't give you any return on value. But this college degree, over a lifespan, can earn, I think the number, and you may know it better than I do, I think the number is more than $1 million over a lifespan that you are earning, and that's just with a bachelor's degree.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right.
That's dangerous because it'll turn into the gap decade if you're not careful.
Yep, absolutely. You know, and it's the same reason I tell students who talk about going to med school or going to law school, you need to do it immediately after you finish your undergraduate degree, because life happens. You start working, you start making money, you start vacationing, you start taking trips and all those other things. The next thing you know, 5 years are coming on. Your friends have graduated and you still contemplating, oh, I need to take the MCAT, I need to take the LSAT, and I'm going to do this. Why put off tomorrow what you can do today? Because remember, tomorrow's not promised. So, absolutely. Well, Dr. Talley, as always, it's always been a pleasure, and it's always been great to just have real conversations. I really thank you for, again, joining me in this impromptu gathering today. And we appreciate you all for joining us and asking your questions and for sharing, because we have these conversations offline in many shapes, forms, and fashion. And you got the opportunity to hear some of the things we share with one another, some of the things we constantly discuss in terms of we wish more families did this. We wish more families knew this. This is our service. This is how we like to help, empower, educate, enrich, inform the lives of the people we impact daily, or people who follow us daily. And it's part of our responsibility as leaders, because I classify everyone who was on this line as leaders. Now, I can't say that about everybody, but we're not going to get into that conversation. But I really, really hope you all got something out of it. So again, if you want to get the additional tips or you got some questions or want to seek some of the assistance from Alicia, Dr. Alicia, I'll just put your email address at thecollegeprepboss.com, and I'll make sure she gets that information, and we'll get the tips back to you. Dr. Talley, I'm gonna let you give a pitch for UAPB, another HBCU in the SWAC. Now, granted, it's not Southern University, A&M College in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I am a little biased. I love my school, but I love all HBCUs. We go back and forth, yeah, but it's all love. We love each other. So no, I'll let you talk about something great or some opportunities that UAPB got coming up. Why should some families consider UAPB on their list this year.
Yeah. So again, thank you for the opportunity to be on your show this afternoon, this evening. I want to say this: if you're looking for a school where people will love you, people care about you, and people will encourage you to become your very best version of you, then you want to come to the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. We're the only HBCU in the Arkansas system, the University of Arkansas system. We have over 200 ponds on our campus. We have one of the top aquaculture and fishery programs in the country, where students can get a bachelor's, a master's, or a PhD in aquaculture and fisheries. We do research on our campus. We produce scholars here. People come from all over the world to study here, and we are a small school, 3,000 students, small classroom sizes, but we have a huge impact on the world. And if you're looking for an institution where you can have that personal relationship, but leave here and to conquer the world, and you should come to UAPB.
All right. Well, you said what?
I said that's it, short and sweet.
Yep, short and sweet. Well, you all heard it. Again, we're going to keep going. We're going to go to college. We're not going to put our life on hold because the world is still moving. So you can't afford to not keep moving. Action, success comes from movement. It doesn't come from being stagnant and sitting still. That's just a principle of life, a principle of leadership. So keep that in mind. I am Tamika Williamson, your favorite College for Free coach, the College Prep Boss. I always tell my folks, the time to be ready is not the time to get ready. We are working to educate families on how to stay ready. Because when you stay ready, those opportunities that will come your way, you will be able to take advantage of them, because opportunities only come to a prepared person. So let's stay prepared. Thank you all for joining us. Until next time, stay safe, wash your hands, and wear your mask. This is Coach T signing out. Okay, I don't know. Did it end it? Oh. Okay.